Welcome to the Manitoba Child Care Association's review of Best Choices, The Ethical Journey, Part 3. I'm Michelle Grant, an MCCA Ethics Guide and member of the Ethics Committee. If you're watching this video, you have already reviewed Part 1 that introduced you to personal beliefs, values, and ethics, as well as Part 2, which identified ethical dilemmas and the MCCA Code of Ethics. This review is not intended to replace the workshops that are offered through MCCA, but to provide the opportunity to revisit the information that was covered. In Part 2, we identified ethical dilemmas and the MCCA Code of Ethics. In Session 3, the ethical journey focused on the decision-making process to help you identify a best choice in a particular situation. You were given a chance to practice using the decision-making model, and during the workshop we helped you recognize how complex this process is. When there can be many possible choices and considerations, it might seem decisions have become more difficult to make. Those choices allow you to figure out what is most important and then commit to ethical decision-making practice. The decision-making practice took us through 9 steps. Here's the framework that we introduced to you. What are your initial reactions? That's usually your gut reaction. Who will be affected by the situation? And we helped you identify all the stakeholders that could or would be affected by any decision that you make. What principles or values are in conflict? Here we pushed you to identify the personal and professional values that were in conflict. You might remember that at times a principle was in conflict with itself. Step 4, what are all the potential solutions? In your group, you brainstormed all potential options, even if they seemed impossible or were options you could never see yourself making. In doing that, we asked you to choose the top 3 choices. Reminder, for there to be an ethical dilemma, there will always be 2 or more possible and defensible choices for action, and never just one right answer. You were then asked to identify the consequences for each stakeholder for each of the potential choices you could make. Individually, we wanted you to determine which way you were leaning, and was there one choice that stood out for you? You then were asked to make a decision about which one was the best choice for you at that moment. We recognize that in another time or in a similar situation and with different people, the choice may also be different. The decision is now about the actions you will take. What will you do to follow through with the decision that you have made? The last step is evaluate. You'll need to check back in with yourself. After you have taken action, how will you assess the choice that you made? We used this format to consider the story of Ginny, the ECE who was asked to keep information about an HIV-positive child confidential. Participants rarely reached consensus as to what Ginny should do. The goal was not to find the right answer. Think back to your group. Did clarifying and discussing help you understand the values of others? What were your first reactions? Did you feel you were facing an ethical dilemma or just a tough choice? Did regulations, laws, or principles of the MCCA Code of Ethics guide your decision? Did any of your assumptions or perspectives change? And how did you feel about not arriving at one right answer? The decision-making model or framework offers a workable process to help you navigate through 2 or more equally okay or possible choices to find the best choice for that particular situation. Remember, when it's an ethical dilemma, the choices will not conflict with the mandate, and they will be equally okay when we consider actions that will cause least harm to the stakeholders. Once participants completed the steps with Ginny, you were asked to work in small groups to share ethical dilemmas from your own experiences and use the framework to try and arrive at an ethical decision. You can practice that process by viewing the MCCA vignettes on the website and using the framework in this review. Remember to implement your best choice and take the actions you have identified. The goal is to walk the talk, act, and evaluate. Thank you for taking the time to re-examine the Best Choices decision-making model. It demonstrates your interest to follow best practices and to use your code of ethics to guide your actions. I encourage you to join your colleagues in registering for MCCA workshops that are designed to stimulate and explore discussion about beliefs, values, and ethics. Ever thought about planning some fun and informative games for staff gatherings? Borrow the MCCA Ethics tab, which is full of games to provoke thought and discussion. We encourage you as you venture down this personal journey and thank you for allowing us to be a part of it.